Thank you for staying with us, everyone. Tonight, we turn our attention to the growing controversy surrounding Nigeria's newly enacted tax reform laws. In response to allegations of discrepancies between the laws passed by the National Assembly and the versions circulated to the public, the House of Reps has released certified true copies of the Tax Act, insisting they reflect exactly what lawmakers approved and what the president has assented to. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas says the move is aimed at restoring public confidence, addressing concerns about possible alterations, and setting the record straight on the country's tax reforms. Joining us now to shed more light on this development, clarify the House's position, and explain what it means for Nigerians is Right Honorable Philip Agbese, Deputy Spokesperson of the House of Representatives. Honorable Agbese, Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much for joining us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you, Olajumoke.
Thank you for joining me. So, Nigerians are looking forward to celebrating Christmas and also adjusting to the new tax laws. And, on the other hand, there was enough misinformation going around that the committee in charge, especially Mr. Taiwo Yedele, was dealing with when one of your own, Honorable Mr. Mad Dasuki, now PDP Sokoto State, raised the matter of privilege in the House. He was alleging that the versions of the tax reform laws gazetted and published publicly differed materially from the versions that were debated, harmonized, and approved by the National Assembly. And obviously, this was enough to trigger public concern, media scrutiny, and there were calls from every concerned Nigeria, because according to him, he spent about 3 days reviewing the copies gazetted alongside the votes and proceedings of the House and the harmonized versions adopted by both chambers of the National Assembly. And he came to a final conclusion, which is that he observed discrepancies. From your own angle, what did the House find out after the Speaker ordered an internal verification exercise?
Yes, well, I want to commend my colleague, Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki, for his diligence, because according to him, he saw a document on the internet, and later he got a copy of it from public sources. And what he found out was that some of the letters of the document in circulation did not conform with what went through the various parliamentary procedures before it was sent to Mr. President by the National Assembly. As a matter of fact, we in the People's House, the 10th House of Representatives, we want to commend Nigerians for their interest in the laws of the country, particularly the Tax Reform Act, and the work that we have been saddled with, because it is one thing for Nigerians to send you to the parliament. It is also another thing for them to be interested in what you are doing there. So the controversy around that conversation, of course, was a very important one, and we salute Nigerians for their vigilance, because the era that we're in today, you see a lot happening. Even we have had allegations like some spiritual books, which had gone through canonization over a long period of time, are now being forged. Copies are now many, on the internet, and people no longer know what to even read. The Holy Bible, for instance, we've heard that there are copies on the internet that do not conform with some of the canonized texts that are passed through a long period of time. So coming back to the situation with the Tax Reform Act, Nigerians are interested in it because, of course, it has to do with their money. It has to do with their resources, going back to the government and to be used, for the development of the country. So what we did as a parliament, that is anchored on the basis of transparency and accountability, was to take the red flag raised by our colleague very seriously. He didn't do it as a member of the opposition. We saw it as a genuine concern raised by a member of the parliament, and because his a point of privilege, it was anchored on the philosophy, on the guiding philosophy of the 10th House of Representatives, to be transparent, to ensure that there's accountability, and that we must work for the Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas took it very seriously, and as a parliament, we decided to constitute a committee, to look at the issue. But while that was also going on, Nigerians were also raising very important questions, because People were also talking about the document in circulation and if it emanated from the presidency or the National Assembly, to see some letters, finding their way into what Nigerians, through their representatives in the National Assembly had passed and agreed, to be the tax laws for a period of time for the country. And of course, we were all worried because concerns were raised by our constituents, who called us from various parts of the country, and some raised issues, protests, press conferences, and all of that. And to demonstrate that, yes, we are always in tandem with our discussions and resolutions with the Nigerian people. Remember that these laws went through the rudiment of parliamentary procedures where we had public hearing, we engaged the Nigerian people, we engaged traditional rulers, the civil society, and every individual who had casted his or her vote for us. So, of course, it would have been a very bad situation for Nigerians to find out that their discussions with us are not what came into force on January 1st. So for Mr. Speaker to further demonstrate that confidence that Nigerians have reposed in him, we had to do the extraordinary, by releasing those documents for Nigerians to peruse. And even though that the storm has calmed down, we still expect that Nigerians will still look at the document that Mr. Speaker, and the Senate President in the decision of the National Assembly have released for Nigerians again to further scrutinize it, to see if their fears, have been confirmed or otherwise. Right. Because we are here to serve the people, and we want to be as transparent as possible. We want to be accountable to the Nigerian people as a parliament. So we still expect, though Nigerians are not talking about it again, but we still want to hear more from them.
And I must also corroborate your earlier statements, which is to establish that, allegations of legislative alteration are very, very serious. And, for some Nigerians, they thought the burden of proof should rest on the person making such claims. That's on the part of Honorable Dasuki. Was there any evidence presented to justify his doubt over the validity of the Tax Act or what he called discrepancies? Or are you confirming tonight that he relied solely on some documents he found on the internet?
Yes, we cannot vilify Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki for the concern that he has raised. He expressed not just his opinion, but that of his people. And for us in the 10th House of Representatives, it was also very important because if Honorable Abdul Samad had not raised that issue, and probably somewhere along the line, we are now confronted, with a law or some persons along the chain, of implementation, pick what Honorable Abdul Samad had seen on the internet and they, out of overzealousness begin to implement what is not known to the parliament as a law, that would have been a bigger disaster. For us in the People's House, we take every controversy very, very seriously. We see them to be very important because they have to do with the governance and the administration of this country. So as a parliament, we were confronted with that challenge. But again, it is not about how many challenges one is confronted with in life. It is the way you deal with the issues. So when the issue arose, what did we do as a parliament? How did the leadership of the House handle the matter? And I think at the moment that is what is more important to Nigerians, because His Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker Tajudeen Abbas, working in partnership with the Senate President, have done justice to it by ensuring, that Nigerians get the right answers to the questions that they have asked. It is, the responsibility of the Nigerian people. It is their right, not a privilege, for Nigerians to know exactly what is happening in the parliament.
All right, Honorable Agase,
and we owe them that duty.
You may kindly hold on. You may have answered that question the best way you could, but for me, that does not answer my question. I wanted to be clear, and so young Nigerians can also learn from this, because if this is coming from the House of Reps, how much more younger Nigerians who are just on the internet and, older people who just rely basically on information on social media. I wanted to confirm if Honorable Dasuki came to the House with proper evidence, to push forward his grievances or some of his complaints, or he basically relied on some documents he found on social media. Also, how does the House intend to address his concerns now that the certified true copies confirm there is no difference?
Yes, it is not actually an offense. Remember that the People's House, the 10th House of Representatives, under the leadership of His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, is a parliament of laws. And, you know, when you operate the law, you have procedures. Honorable Dasuki came under, you know, the House Standing Order, you know, to express his views. And you cannot vilify a man for expressing his concern as a citizen, you know, who wants the growth and development of the country. I think what he has done is not anything, you know, funny. For us as a people's parliament, we're interested in scrutinizing even our own, you know, procedures. There were other issues, you know, at the course of the House. We could recall when, you know, the president made a proclamation of state of emergency in Rivers State, and he sent that document, you know, to the House to, you know, get, you know, the confirmation of the parliament. I recall in that proceedings, one of our colleagues, Honorable Agocha, you know, raised a very important issue which has to do, you know, with quorum. And we dealt with the issue. It is not about the issues that are raised. It is actually about how we deal with these issues. And most importantly, as a People's House, we deal with these issues based on our rules and regulations, on our standing order, and again, in conformity with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So what Honorable Abdul Samad has done, I'm sure, you know, having seen the official document from the House on the issue, it is now left for him when we reconvene as a parliament, you know, to come again to do the right thing, probably to apologize to the parliament. And if he doesn't,
does the leadership of the House expect him?
Because
Honorable Agbesa, does the leadership of the House expect him to apologize?
No, no one is asking for an apology from him because he didn't do anything wrong.
No, you don't. I asked that because you just said perhaps to apologize. That was why I wanted to confirm if the leadership of the House
as a gentleman, as a gentleman, I was trying to say that as a gentleman that I know Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki to be, you know, having seen the official document from the House and, you know, having confirmed, you know, that what he got from the internet, you know, is not in conformity with the official document that was passed by the House, he may choose, you know, as a gentleman to go further. You know, but again, that is just by the way. For us as a People's Parliament, what is important is our rules and regulation, our procedures. You know, how how do we deal with these issues when they are raised? Do they conform, you know, with the House standing orders? Do we deal with them in you know, according to our set standards? Are they in the interest of the masses of the Nigerian people that we represent? Are they in the interest of good governance? Would they promote peace and harmony in the country? For us, as a People's House, I think those are the issues that are more important to us.
All right, but you know, I'm sure you know, perhaps not to what extent, but you should have an idea of how this controversy undermines trust in the National Assembly. How do you respond to that? Also, Nigerians are asking, why did it take a lawmaker's allegation before the House released certified true copies?
No, you see, democracy is a very beautiful practice everywhere in the world. But I think what is more critical, you know, in democracy is good governance. And for you to be able to deliver good governance, again, you have to, you know, respect the laws that you have set in place to govern you. So as a parliament, when you have laws in place, you don't jump the guns. When that issue was raised as a parliament, we had to deal with it systematically and to get to the root of it. In the first instance, we had to establish that what Honorable Abdul Samad raised was even, you know, something important. Was it in existence? You know, so quickly, in the wisdom of the leadership of the House, under Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, we decided to set up an ad hoc committee to look at the issue. And the ad hoc committee quickly went into work, and they were able to look at some of those issues and say, well, for us, In fact, the investigation was still going on. But because we are the people's house, we respond to the yearnings and aspirations of the Nigerian people. We see them as our bosses. And the moment Nigerians said, you have to release this document, we are curious. We want to know. We want to see, what you pass as a law. Because we didn't just pass those laws. We agreed with the Nigerian people as their representative. We sat down together, during our public hearings, and we engaged experts to look at these issues. And based on the memoranda submitted by Nigerians, we were able to accept, some aspect of the bill, as it were, as they were sent to us. And after that, we agreed, and the Senate and the House of Representatives, had a joint committee which looked into the issue and harmonized it, which came back to the House for consideration. And it was after the consideration we agreed that this is good for us as a country. And thereafter, we sent it to the executive for presidential assent. Of course, we, as a parliament, we don't follow documents to look at them and say, what is Mr. President signing? It is after this document has been signed, and I think that is the aspect that our colleague, didn't wait for. And of course, Nigerians became agitated. Honorable Abdul
you said
Samad
it's not,
is a very
you've also said it's not a crime.
And
Honorable, you've also said it's not a crime to get Nigerians agitated unnecessarily, especially coming from a lawmaker.
No, he
but,
didn't.
I'm also
You see, Jumoke,
yes.
Jumoke, you see, this has to do with taxation.
I understand.
Taxation, even as old as it is, from the beginning of time, that even, the maker, requested that people should, tax and return some sort of gratification.
I get you, when I made that comment,
it is also.
Can you hold on, sir? I made that comment basically for a particular reason, because one, I'm also aware that the ad hoc committee chaired by Mr. Betara continues its work to determine the circumstances surrounding the circulation of the unauthorized versions of the tax act. Now, that's on one side. There have also been controversies surrounding the legitimacy, credibility, transparency, and accountability of the process leading to the official gazetting of the tax bill. First, how concerned are you about these controversies, and how do you respond to allegations that, the process leading to the gazetting of the tax bill did not comply with established legislative procedures?
No, Jumoke, as a parliament, we work together as one indivisible, united entity, with one common goal. And that common goal is to promote good governance across the country, to support the welfare and the well-being of Nigerians. So, yes, of course, we were concerned, but it is not actually every allegation that is raised, in the public domain that has that iota of credibility, to waste so much time on. For us, we were more interested, in the circumstances, or otherwise of, documents agreed, passed by the 360 members of the parliament being doctored along the line. So one of the things we did, we requested, the clerk to the National Assembly, to request the executive to forward back to us what has been signed. And at the course of doing all this, this have to do with administrative procedures. And while that was also going on, Nigerians were still curious because when you talk about trust deficit, I think the 10th House of Representatives, has built that level of trust. And
has built that level of trust, or is still trying to build that level of trust, Honorable?
No, I think to a large extent, because, the curiosity of Nigerians, they were not even interested in what was flying on the internet. Nigerians were saying, Honorable Agbese, Honorable Abbas, Honorable Dansuki, please do furnish us with copies of the document that you have signed. And I think the curiosity of Nigerians was also to find out if, as a parliament, having agreed with the Nigerian people through, public hearing, that we went further to doctor the document, or we did a few selected individuals did something without the consent of the whole house or something. And I think the moment His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas took that courageous, bold decision, without wasting time to release what was passed by the House, the controversy died a natural death. And that is exactly where we are now. I believe these laws are not being implemented. And Nigerians are satisfied with the fact that, because, like you mentioned, trust deficit, it is very, very important. If you agree with a thing with your wife as a husband, you expect
I agree with you,
that she will do exactly what has been agreed as a family. Yes.
I agree with you, Honorable Agbese, but how does the House intend to, yes, the CTCs has been released, but then how does the House intend to, preserve the integrity and reliability of parliamentary records? How does the House balance the need for public transparency with the need to protect sensitive information in parliamentary records? But I'll allow you to answer that question when we return from this break. Please stay with us, everyone. Controversy, House of Reps releases certified true copies, and I've been speaking with Deputy Spokesperson, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Philip Agbese. Honorable, thank you very much for staying with us on the program. So in one sentence now, can you assure Nigerians that, the tax laws now in circulation truly reflect the will of the National Assembly? With the citizens now released, how does the House plan to, reassure the public and taxpayers that the tax laws are accurate and enforceable?
Well, our duty as a parliament did not stop after passing the tax reform bills into law. We have the constitutional responsibility to oversight, to see that the laws that have been passed by the parliament are dutifully implemented, to the best of the ability of the executive. So as a parliament, not just passing those laws, we have that responsibility. We owe into our constituents to ensure that we oversight, the relevant agencies to ensure that these laws are implemented in line with the spirit and letter, of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, and, to build public trust and, in the parliament, what we did, we saw the future when we came on board in 2023, and we deployed openness, as a tool, to ensure that the Nigerian people continue to trust the parliament. So every stage of lawmaking in this parliament, it is exposed to the understanding of the Nigerian people. That is why, we are always here to speak to them, and we engage Nigerians in well-publicized public hearings, in line with the Speaker's legislative agenda, to ensure that Nigerians at every stage of lawmaking are carried along. So I believe that even the controversy emanated as a result of the interest of Nigerians, because Nigerians knew exactly what we were doing. They were following every stage of what, was being achieved in respect of the Tax Reform Act. And to that extent, they were able, to raise issues where necessary. So we want to implore Nigerians, to continue to have that confidence us, to continue to follow the activities of the parliament, and to continue to support the leadership of the House of Representatives under the leadership of Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. On the other hand, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas must continue, to sustain these qualities that Nigerians have seen in him, to so much trust the People's House to the extent that they will request and demand, for certified true copies of documents that are in contention. And that shows that Nigerians, not trust the parliament, they have confidence in the parliament, and they are more interested in what we are doing. So as we progress into 2026 legislative year, we want to implore them more participation, and on our part, I want to promise Nigerians on behalf of the People's House that we are going to be more transparent. We are going to be more open to the people. The House is open to every Nigerian, to every constituent, to see what we are doing and to bring in their contributions and input, through members. So, yeah, that's exactly what we are going to do.
Just don't worry. We have enough time to come back to that, because, this People's House, you've kept repeating. I have a lot of questions to ask pertaining to how the House has indeed lived up to expectation. But let's stay on this for a minute before we move to 2027 elections and expectations of Nigeria as we move into 2026. What message would you, give to Nigerians who may have been concerned about these alleged discrepancies? Is this safe for businesses and individuals to fully comply with the tax laws without fear of perhaps future legal complications?
Well, yes, it's a work in progress. The law has been gazetted and is now in place. No law is a permanent entity. We expect that in the process of implementing the law, Nigerians will raise their concerns, and where we see that these concerns are genuine enough, and that is why the Parliament is there. Of course, we would move for amendments, either to, add or to subtract from the law. But as it is today, that is the law. It is in force. It is what the representative of the Nigerian people have accepted. And we as a parliament, we are going to, monitor, like I mentioned earlier, to ensure that these laws are not applied in any way that they become detrimental to the progress, and development of our society as a nation.
And personally, I think Mr. Taiwo Idile has done a good job convincing Nigerians, setting the record straight, punching the myths before and after June 26, when Mr. President signed the 4 tax reforms bills into law. Why is full alignment, for many Nigerians still skeptical and asking this question, why is full alignment with the new tax laws crucial for Nigeria's economic growth and fiscal stability?
Well, I'm not here to do the work of the executive, but from our standpoint as a parliament, we have equally looked at the issue of distribution of resources, which the Tax Reform Act carries. We have equally looked at the issue, of communities that are less developed, societies that have lesser revenue, on the need for even distribution, of our national wealth as a country. And these are the issues that we are looking at to ensure that the past, redistribution of our wealth, is properly placed, that it benefits every citizen, irrespective of where you come from. So for us, those are the issues that we're interested in. We're equally interested in every citizen of the country being part and parcel of the developmental processes of the country. So to that extent, our focus at this point as a parliament is to ensure that every single kobo, that is taken from the Nigerian people is used in the overall interest of the people. So to that end, our various committees, are going to be out to ensure not just the implementation of the Tax Reform Acts, but to also ensure that budgetary allocations derived from resources gathered from the taxes of Nigerians are applied religiously and equitably, to address the problems that are militating against this country. We want to see, a country with better educational facilities for our students. We want to see a country, that is doing more for our aged population. We want to see a country that invests more, in its security, where the citizens are able to go to bed and they sleep with all their eyes closed. So for us as a parliament, these are the interesting conversations around the Tax Reform Act before they came into being. So in line, with the character and the personality of the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, we want to see more transparency. We want to see more accountability, both on the part of the executive and even, on the part of the parliament. And of course, in 2026 is going to be another period of time that elected representatives will be going back to the people, to receive their verdict. So if we have done well, 2026 is going to be a defining moment, for us as elected representatives, so that the Nigerian people can pass their verdict. But to a large extent, I believe as a parliament, we have acted largely in the overall interest of our people.
And thank you very much for reminding me that you do not speak for the executive, but also you're a politician and a member of the ruling party. And I must also remind you, Honorable Agbesa, that when this administration is criticized, it touches every member of the APC. Now, let me take you up on other issues. This is 2026, fifth day. And many Nigerians are looking for, tangible improvements in governance, in economy, and particularly security. What concrete steps is the National Assembly taking to meet these expectations? And this is me telling you that, some Nigerians feel past promises are falling short. And earlier we talked about trust deficits. This is it. I remember everything you said on this program, January 2025. So how does the House of Reps ensure that these commitments aren't just rhetoric?
Jumoke, yes, 2025 was a very tough year for every Nigerian, in the sense that the economy was not a very good one. From what we read on the pages of papers and the realities as it affects the common citizens of the country. And I recall that you also mentioned the issue that some of us are members of the ruling party. But you also agree with me, Jumoke, that I deliberately choose to be a parliamentarian and not to be in the executive. That is because we want to do the work of lawmakers, not the work of the executive. So for us in the parliament, we have about 8 political parties in this parliament. And it is not about which political party that we represent. It is about the Nigerian people. Our philosophy as a people's house is to bury our sentiments, our political differences, our religious background and tribal, divisive element, but to work in unison, for the betterment of our country. And largely, to a large extent, we have achieved that in so many ways. You mentioned the issue of security. Towards the tail end of last year, we witnessed kidnappings across the country, of course, which was triggered, by fear, by the bandits and some other persons when, some of our international partners expressed, concerns. And again, before the end of last year, we saw how the partnership between, our government as a country and their international partners are beginning to pay off. We also saw critical changes within the security architecture that was carried out by Mr. President. And I think to a large extent that is already beginning to deliver some positive results. So I would say that as a parliament, we expect, more. We expect better, performance in this aspect by the executive. And as a parliament, Mr. Speaker, in his statement yesterday when he was consoling with the people of Niger State over the killings in that country, he reiterated our commitment again to support the executive, in making laws and to support them in any way possible in terms of making approvals for, spendings and approval, for even in borrowings, to ensure that Nigerians are able to sleep with their eyes closed. And you also recall that in 2024, as a parliament, we introduced what we call the sectorial debate. And that debate has largely focused more on security and the economy, because these are two things that affect, every citizen, security and the economy. Of course, if you are not a student, if you don't need education, to a large extent, you want to sleep with your eyes closed. When you wake up in the morning, you also want to have something, to eat before you can go back to bed again. So the economy and the security for us as a parliament are two cardinal, areas that we want to see the executive, doing more. And as a parliament, we also want to collaborate with them, to see, that we achieve better results than in 2025.
I see. But I mean, when you also, consider how criticism of the National Assembly is intensifying, particularly around perceived inefficiency, corruption, Nigerians are talking about lack of accountability. What is your response to Nigerians who feel their representatives are not listening to them?
Okay, I think if there is any parliament in the history of this country that's opened its wide ears, open to the Nigerian people, it is the 10th House of Representatives.
Can you speak on behalf of your Honorable Gbesa? You can only speak for yourself. Can you speak on behalf of your other colleagues? I said their representatives are not listening to them.
No, Jumoke, I want to tell you something.
Okay.
Because in the discharge of our duties as a parliament, there are a lot. We do virtually everything apart from constituency briefing, which are carried out by individual parliamentarians, at their own constituency level. We work in synergy as a parliament. Our committees do not respect where you come from. Every committee, let me speak for the House of Representatives. We have our special committees have representatives cut across the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. So if, for instance, we are talking about the Committee on Defense, the Committee on Appropriation, very Committee on Works, these are committees that have members across. So what we do, we ensure that there's uniformity, of programs. For instance, let's talk about the constitutional amendment bills before the House. These issues are being tackled from state to state. The committee under the leadership of Right Honorable Benjamin Okeze-Kalu is doing justice to it. We engage everyone, and when you are, remember that we are representing the Nigerian people. We are not in Abuja, to represent our people alone. Because what happens in Adokpoko, Baribo, of course, will affect people in Obomoso, as well as people in Sokoto. So I first am a Nigerian before being a parliamentarian. And we're here, basically to serve our country. We understand that our constituents are not the one paying our salary, but the country. So first, our allegiance is to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the country. So I think our individual engagement as parliamentarians back home are just a fraction of the overall work that we do as a parliament.
All right. Let me take you up on politics, 2027 elections, just to be precise, because it looks like ADC, that's the African Democratic Congress, is now your party's biggest threat going into the 2027 election. This is me pretending to agree that the PDP is no longer a threat. But talking about the ADC that has, rejected support for the president's re-election, I want to have your assessment of, the role of the ADC in the current political landscape, particularly regarding their influence on APC's agenda.
Well, we in the APC, in line with Mr. President's agenda, we welcome the advent of the ADC as an opposition political party because you cannot know, the beauty of democracy if it is a one-party affair. And because the PDP has crumbled, it was actually necessary that we have some sort of opposition, to critique what we are doing as a government. So I do not really see that as a threat, but I see the existence of the ADC, as another challenge for us to do more for the Nigerian people, because the understanding by any woman in a polygamous setup is, to do more for the husband, knowing fully well that your co-wife is somewhere waiting, to do something better if you don't perform.
That's very interesting, Honorable Agbese. I find that very interesting. But how real is, this threat to APC's dominance?
Well, I do not think the essence of the APC doctrine, as a political party is just to dominate the country. I think our philosophy of change is about doing things differently, to the extent that it satisfies the yearnings and aspiration of the common person. Having said that, we as a political party, we are more interested in delivering, the dividends of democracy to our people, not just about the existence of other political parties. Yes, parties are allowed to exist. They've always been there. I give you a good example from the People's House. We have 8 political parties for the first time, in the history of the House of Representatives. We have never been bothered about, the political parties. We have been bothered about making good laws, that will promote, the growth and development of our society. And I believe naturally if the APC, is delivering, the dividends of democracy to the citizens of Nigeria, no one anywhere will be worried about the existence of other political parties. Yes, they have to exist. It is their constitutional right, that people should be allowed to freely, associate and belong to groups that they so wish to belong to. Political parties are not just in existence for the main purpose, of participating in elections. They are there, they perform other social functions to ensure that there's good governance. They also exist, to keep government on their toes, as a check. Mm-hmm. So we welcome the ADC. They are playing a very important role as far as our democracy is concerned.
Really,
it will be counted for.
If it is really about good governance, why are more governors trooping into your party every other day, every other month? Some saying this is an implosion waiting to happen. Can you hold on, sir? Some of you say this is not dominance. Some of your party members say there is nothing that would happen that APC cannot handle. And as it looks, the political calculation currently favors the APC at the federal level. And yes, state governors will have control of their states. But what happens to local candidates? Simply because governors alone don't make the party be an added value. The people make up your party. Are there concerns, within your own party about ideological consistency now that leaders from, diverse backgrounds are joining the party?
Well, I think it is about the governance style of Mr. President. If you are a president for all and you have made your home comfortable enough to welcome and receive, people from other nations, they are welcome. We welcome them into the APC. But again, if it is about winning election, then I want to categorically make this point before Nigerians, going by antecedents, that it is not about the political party, but about the people. A good example in 2023 is Delta State. In Delta State, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa was even the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. In that election, he lost his state to another candidate. So for us, it is about good governance. If Mr. President at the national level, is a backing of some of these ambitious projects that we're seeing across the country, and people go to their governors and say, Your Excellency, we think we should go in this direction to support what Mr. President is doing, or we have to align in this direction to enjoy, what we are seeing in other states. I think it's a win-win situation, for the state and the federal government. Where there's cooperation, where there's collaboration between the federal government and the state government, of course, the people stand to benefit more than where you have a war situation. You will recall the East-West Road when former President Goodluck Jonathan was the president of the country, and he was not on the same page with former Governor Rotimi Amechi. There were issues around that road. Not much was achieved. So I think what the governors are doing and what Mr. President is also doing is to see that everyone, every leader is respected and people are on the same page. So if people, not just governors, because when you talk about political party migration, we have also seen the migration of senior citizens who are members, of other political parties joining the APC. Another good example, former Senate President Pius Anyim Pius, was among the early persons, who saw the light, to team up with Mr. President in order to develop Ebonyi State. Honorable former Speaker, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, was also in the opposition when this government was formed. Today, he has joined the government.
I hear you, Honorable
Agwese,
trying to convince Nigerians that this is really about good governance. But do you agree with those who say, party structures on the ground are not just elite defections determine electoral success, and that this is something that is lacking in the APC?
Well, the issue of party structure, for instance, when some of us emerged, the party structure in our state was safely in the hands of the People's Democratic Party, but through the will of the Nigerian people and the masses of our constituencies, we're able to emerge. So for me, it is our democracy today is about the people. If the people are at home with you, it doesn't matter the political party that you are in, you are definitely going to have the endorsement. So that takes us again, to the issue of electoral reforms, which is also very important. As Mr. President has enjoyed, the will of the Nigerian people in a very turbulent period, to be elected as the president of this country, Nigerians expect, that Mr. President is going to make it, the environment conducive enough, for free and fair elections to take place in 2027. And I believe that those who have been able to deliver largely on their electoral promises to their people, will have a resounding mandate, to return back to whatever positions that they currently occupy.
And quickly before I let you go, you've talked about governance, good governance. You've talked about Mr. President enjoying the will of the people in a turbulent period. But what role do you think party loyalists and you look at grassroots members, what role do you think they should play in defending the mandate of this administration?
Well, for me, just like Mr. Speaker would always tell us, as members of the parliament, and even as the deputy spokesperson of the House, that our duty is not for us to defend the parliament. Our duty, is to tell Nigerians what exactly that we're doing. So I do not think anyone necessarily needs, to arm him or herself with the tools to defend the mandate of the president. The mandate is speaking for itself. Where the mandate is doing well, the Nigerian people, of course, are in love in those areas. And the areas where they want tangible improvement, they're also speaking for that. So I think we owe Mr. President a duty as his party people, to also speak truth to power. In areas where Mr. President has not been able to completely, align his realities, with the letters that were presented to the Nigerian people before the election. So to a large extent, I think party loyalists at this point in time, should just return back to the people with what Mr. President has achieved and make those things very clear and also speak to the people on the vision of Mr. President in areas where he has not been able to address their fears and challenges.
And yes, that's what Nigerians expect of the parliament in this year 2026. Speak true to power, whether or not it favors you. Thank you very much for speaking with us tonight. Deputy Spokesperson, House of Representatives, Honorable Philip Akbese. And Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much for watching.